Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Sam, and this week I decided to do another reading vlog. This week we are going to be reading romance, specifically. As I was filming my May TBR and showing all the books that I had yet to catch up on past TBRs, and the books that I have out from the library currently, I realized a lot of them are romance. And a lot of these books that are out from the library are romance. So I figured let's just tackle my TBR, let's tackle my library holds, and just do a classic reading romance for a week. Starting out this vlog, I am currently in the middle of And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. I started this book over the weekend and got 220 pages into this so far, so just about halfway through. I was waiting so long for my library hold to come in. The wait was so long, and this book is quite overdue. So I definitely need to get this finished sooner than later and also take back Thunderhead, which is the last book that I read. Like I said, my library hold took forever to come in, so I'm not quite in the season anymore that this book takes place, because in this one we are following Jackson, who we see in book 1. He is like the weatherman from the radio show, being partnered up with Delilah, who is part of the news team, I guess, for the news station across the street. And they are supposed to be working together to cover this big, massive snowstorm that is supposed to hit Baltimore, or like around Baltimore. Yeah, just cover this crazy weather event. So obviously a little out of season, but we are having a cold front. There's a couple cold days currently in Ontario. So I feel like even though the season's not quite right, the temperatures and everything is working out to be. I just have to finish it very quickly before it gets warmer again later this week. But anyway, back to this book. I am enjoying it so far. I think their banter is really sweet, and the way that they have started to show up for each other. I really like the messaging that literally from the jump you can see that our characters have preconceived notions about each other. And as soon as they meet and start learning about each other, you really see, or not even that they meet and they start to see these things, but us as the reader get into their personal lives and see the things that they are dealing with, and just that messaging that, you know, you don't know everything that a person is going through. What they're portraying might not be what they're actually feeling. And so I think that's a really sweet and important message to remember. Now, I will say I feel like the romance, or just their relationship, whether it be friendship, partnership, like coworker setting, it's very quick. They had, like I said, these preconceived notions about each other. Delilah is kind of this whirlwind, not great at parking, and I feel like they get over these things very quickly and are seemingly already obsessed with each other. Timing, I don't know if it's the timing or just the way that the plot is going is different to what I expected, and it's just not following the same kind of pattern. But I do really love the setting, and their banter is so much fun. Just the radio show and the little pages after each chapter of either the radio show, text messages, social media comments, the news reports is just like so fun to get more of a glimpse into the relationships between them on the air, relationships between friends, family, things like that. Because Jackson is also the caretaker of his 2 younger sisters. And so that is really sweet. Although they're supposed to be 15, and there have been a couple situations that they don't feel 15. So that's a little bit odd. But I feel like I've just been rambling on a tangent that doesn't necessarily make any sense. So I'm going to go finish getting ready for work and check in once I have more updates so that I can get... I'm not going to say anything, because anytime I say something, I never get anything read. So I'm just gonna, go about my day. But I am enjoying this one. I think I definitely needed just a quick, easy, fun romance. I've been reading a lot of like sci-fi and fantasy. That's been a bit of a struggle. So this is a nice change of pace, but I'm very excited to finish this one off, see what I think, and also pick up some of these other romances that I have been very much anticipating. Hello everybody, happy Wednesday. I'm here to do some book check-ins because I did finish off And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison this morning. I think this is going to be a 3.5-star read for me. Unfortunately, I didn't love this one as much as I expected. This was definitely a sweet, cute, easy read, but I just personally didn't really feel connected to our characters or the connection between our characters. I don't have a lot more to say with this one, but I'm going to make this as vague as I can. But if you don't want to hear any potential spoilers for this book, then skip ahead, like, I don't know, 30 to 45 seconds. But I feel like the majority of this book and their relationship took place in bed, not necessarily in a physical way or anything, but they were just in this forced proximity to each other, and all of their developing moments were in bed. There's also multiple instances in this book where Jackson specifically wanted Delilah to kiss him to avoid his spiraling, his anxiety, his nature, I guess. And I can understand seeking comfort in other people, but like that, like, why are we going right to that? It just seemed like a very physically based relationship. The premise of this book also involves our characters going up to like this cabin a little bit north of Baltimore, at least kind of what I understood, to report on this big winter storm that they're supposed to be getting. And there was like hardly any meteorologist working talk. Like, we didn't really see them go on TV reporting the weather, being part of the radio show, which is kind of what I expected, especially based on the way that book one kind of went. I just wanted more of those small moments between our characters where they are researching and like brushing against each other by accident, or like leaning in close and like Jackson gets a smell of Delilah's perfume, like something like that. But we didn't get like any of that. Like, I wanted more about the storm. I wanted to know these little like wintry things that they were doing. It just, I don't, looking back on this book, I don't really know what happened. And so I think that's why I just don't feel a connection to these characters, because there wasn't any like little moments like that. So 3.5 stars. Kind of got me out of my, I don't know, slumpy feeling that I've been in. Definitely not like really a reading slump, but also just like feeling bogged down by a lot of these like bigger, more involved books that I've been reading. So that was fun. I'm also glad that I have caught up on one more series. Although I have to say, I did check, there is going to be a third book coming out in the series next February. And I feel like it could be one of two people. One of my guesses on who the next book is going to be on, I was losing my mind in that book in the little like scrap, little tiny crumbs that we got. If it's about who I'm hoping it's about, I'm going to actually lose my mind. Because I feel like that's going to be really good. But anyway, the next book that I'm going to be reading in this vlog is In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. Again, this is another library book, so I need to get through it. I have read one chapter this morning, and so basically what I understand about this book is we are following Nathaniel, who is part of the special forces, I think, and is on a mission in Afghanistan to be the security detail, I guess, of a group of politicians that are trying to do some recon post-war or something. One of the people that gets off this plane that they're supposed to be detailing is Izzy Astor. And based on the initial encounters, we know that they have a history together. They seemingly met like 10 years ago, and something happened 3 years ago that led Izzy to believe that Nathaniel was dead. Like I said, everything that I've just shared is in the first chapter, which is literally 5 pages. So not really any spoilers, but, and even just looking at chapter 2, there's dates on each of the chapters. So we are definitely following a dual timeline. We get their past of, I guess, how they met, what their relationship was, in the past. Oh, and also Izzy appears to be engaged currently. So I just feel like this is going to rip my heart out. But that is the next book that we are going to be reading. I have a very, very, very busy day today. So hopefully I'll be able to read a little bit on my lunch still. But Wednesdays are the worst. And then I also have like an offsite training thing tomorrow with work. So definitely won't be any lunchtime reading tomorrow. But hopefully I can have some good dedicated reading time because I have really been enjoying putting a focus on my reading again and making time. But that's all the updates I have for now. I have to go finish getting ready and get started on my very crazy day at work. Alrighty, I'm here for a little wrap up of In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. I ended up finishing this over the weekend. As per usual, I need to cut my bangs, but I don't think I really gave an update on this book because I read just very little chunks, I guess, of this book until the weekend. I basically binged it. I can't remember if I rated this 3 or 3.5 stars. I think it was, I rated this 4 stars. For the majority of this book, this was kind of like a 3, maybe 3.5 star book. I really enjoyed the dual timeline that we got to see. Got to see the past chapters of when they first were meeting and continually running into each other. But the present chapters, I feel like I just never really knew what was going on. Like there was high stakes because they're in Afghanistan, this war-torn country, but I just don't know enough about like military terms. I just wasn't really sure what was actually happening and what the sort of plot was. I feel like there was little tiny glimpses of things happening in the plot, but we weren't really working towards anything, I guess. It was definitely more focused on the relationship, which although I think the past chapters were done well, I feel like I didn't know enough about our characters specifically that I felt like I could actually root for them or understand where they were necessarily coming from. So I just felt like I was kind of reading the story as opposed to being in the story. I had some inklings of where I thought the book was going to go with the ending. I was wrong and I sobbed. So, you know, that's that. I don't think I have much else to say about this one. This one also does deal a lot with like major fears. There's a lot of description involving a plane crash very early on in the book. So keep that in mind if you have a fear of flying. Maybe stay away from this one because it was talked about in great detail. And then sort of the like panic that surrounds that and dealing with the aftermath definitely was part of this book. But I did end up enjoying this one and I'm curious to read more of her backlist. Then I did read a couple chapters of this on Sunday, but mainly started this yesterday, and this is Just Friends by Haley Pham. I used to watch Haley's videos a couple years ago, but I kind of have tended away from them in the past recent years. But I was definitely curious to pick this up because I did watch her videos. I know that she's like a very popular booktuber, and so I'm just too nosy not to pick this one up. So this one follows, again, another dual timeline, and Blair comes home because her great aunt, which she lived with and grew up with, is ill. And so this definitely deals a lot with grief, and I'm guessing kind of like finding yourself and finding out the things that are important to you. And her and Declan were like childhood friends that they've run into each other after not speaking for like 4 years because of some accident that we're not really sure what happened. I'm enjoying it so far. I feel like we were never introduced how they became friends. And so a lot of the past chapters, I just don't feel that connection, friendship, romantic, or otherwise. And some of the conversations are just very odd in the way that they're put together. Like, I just don't know anybody that talks like this. It's kind of trying to put these like philosophical phrases or like motivations in these conversations. It's just trying to like pack a bit too much in there. And there's also a lot of similes and metaphors, like a lot of them. So that kind of pulls me out of the story. It's like, it's okay. I think for a debut novel, it's pretty good. It's just not quite my cup of tea. I don't think. I just don't feel anyone's connection. I can see grief is a huge part of this book. Keep that in mind, like a huge part of this book. And I think we're just getting started. So I'm curious to read more and to find out what happened, but I'm not like fully sucked into the story. But those are all the updates I have for today. I need to go and get ready, go to work, do all the adult things that you know you have to do on a daily basis. But I will check in with you once I have more updates. Okay, everybody, I was finally able to finish Just Friends by Haley Pham. This ended up taking me a little bit longer than I was hoping. I will say that after I did my last check-in, it did get a bit better. However, unfortunately, this is a 2.5 star. I just really could not get behind our characters' connection. I didn't think that they had any, and I feel like there wasn't enough in the past chapters to give a good like groundwork for their relationship. There was no story about how they became friends or anything, and I feel like that would have benefited the story. I will say the grief in this book was represented most realistically that I've seen. Some of the scenes in here were pretty difficult to read just because you could tell that the character was feeling so deeply and it was just very realistic. I also appreciate the way that Haley included the Vietnamese family culture, I guess. I thought that was very interesting and just not something that's in some of the books I have been picking up. But by the end, I just never wanted to pick up this book and I never wanted to sit down and read a lot of chunks of this book at a time. I continually got distracted, and there is like a bonus chapter back here that is like annotated by Haley, and I thought it was going to be more like her annotations as an author trying to work out the chapter. But no, it's just annotated like she would have annotated it as a reader. And so that just didn't give anything to me, so I didn't even finish it. I was just so annoyed by the characters. Our characters are 22, so there are some situations where they do feel so young and they're making choices that a 22-year-old makes with knowledge that a 22-year-old has. However, the way that some things were set up, specifically surrounding the aftermath of the conflict, just did not feel realistic in the slightest. So, yeah. And especially with them only being separated for like 4 years, a lot of the events took place even less time than that. I just could not suspend my disbelief. And this was very frustrating to read, honestly. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was a decent debut, but it just wasn't quite for me. That is everything for today's video. I feel like we started off on a good note and then ended on a less good note. But I'm glad that I was able to read a few more books for my TBRs. That's it. That's all she wrote for today. As always, all of my links are linked down below if you would like to find me on the other corners of the internet. I hope that you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.